Welcome back to Trove One, everybody. We are going to be working on the Suburban again today. We're doing the solid axle swap with the Dana 44 using the Tahoverlanding solid axle swap kit. Got this ground down and painted up the other day. It's looking good here. So we got a lot of the front prepped. I still got some stuff to do with the transmission brace, but we're going to kind of shift focus today a little bit and go to the back end because I want to get a couple things done here. It's kind of important to do. I'm going to talk about it some more at the end of the video, but I'm going to work on getting the rear end set up because with the Tahoverlanding swap, we're going to be welding on new coil buckets on the front. So we can adjust those up and down on the frame to set the front height anywhere we want it, basically, within a certain amount. So I'm going to set the rear end where I think it needs to be. So right now I'm running H2 Hummer springs with airbags. And right now we're running 285, 75, 70, 17 tires. 285, 70, 17 tires. About a 33-inch tire. So with the swap, I'm also going to be going up in tire size. I'm going to go to a 35-inch tire, which I don't have my tires in yet, so I can't test fit it exactly. I'll have to make sure this is all going to work later once I actually get my tires in. But for right now, I'm going to add a 1-inch spacer to my H2 springs. I want to stick with the H2 springs because they're a heavier duty spring, and as much towing as I do, I want that heavier duty spring. I've done a couple measurements, and I think this is going to work. I might end up having to go to 1.5 inches, but I'm not going to know for sure until I get my tires in. So I'm going to set this up where I think it needs to be. We'll get the tires in, then we'll test it, make sure it's going to fit, and then we'll make the front end match the height. I want to make sure I can tuck the tires and all that everything's going to articulate. But for now, we're going to pull the wheels off. We're going to put these spacers in, and then we'll talk about some other stuff in the rear end here that I might need to make some small adjustments to since I'm going up a little bit higher. All right, we got the wheels pulled off, so now we need to disconnect the sway bar that's right here on both sides and the track bar, which is right here. That'll allow us to drop the axle down and pull these springs out so we can put the spacers in. All right, we got the axle drop now, springs loose. I'm gonna install this spacer. In the past, I've always done my spacers on top of the spring, but this time I'm gonna put it on the bottom. These springs are identical on the top and bottom, like the coil size and everything, so I don't think it matters. I've seen them installed on the bottom before, so I'm gonna put it on the bottom because I don't have to undo my airbag line and redo that, so it's just easier. So if it creates a problem, I'll switch it, but I don't see how it could matter whether it's on the top or the bottom. So I'm gonna put it on the bottom this time. There we go. We have a problem. All right, I've got the wheels back on, spacers are in, and I've got it sitting on a jack on the front end. It's not on those jack stands right there. It's just barely off, so that jack is approximately, if I set it on the jack stands, the back end will actually kick up because there's weight in front of it. That's not really accurate to where the axle will be and how it will sit. So the jack's under it, holding the front end up, and the back is sitting on the weight. My airbags are deflated. So what I need to do is get a measurement here from my fender to the center of the axle. I know my target approximate length I want there for running 35s is around 25.5. That can vary a little bit depending on some other stuff, but that's approximately what I want. So I'm going to measure this with my airbags deflated and find out what that measurement is from the fender right there to the center of the axle right there. All right, that is very close to 24.5 inches, maybe just a hair less, but about 24.5. Now I'm going to air my airbags up and see how much of a difference that makes. All right, we are fully inflated on the airbags. Each one has 50 PSI in it. So now we'll see what this measurement is right here. Fender, we are at, say, 25 5/8. Yeah, 25 5/8. So I know a 35 can clear it at 25.5. So with my airbags, I'm a little bit above that. So I'm going to roll with this for right now, and then I'm going to really have to test it because I want to be able to set the front end up at the same height as this when the airbags are not aired up, ideally. And then I can air up the airbags when I'm towing, bring the back up, and then it'll squat back down, and it should sit relatively level. It's probably, it depends on what I'm towing, but I need to be able to fit 35s with no air in the airbags, and then put air in the airbags and tow with 35s and be able to clear flexing while towing off-road. So it's a little bit complex, and I'll see how it works out once I get the tires and I can do some articulation and see how it stuffs in here and test it out a little bit further. But I'm going to leave it here for now at this height and test it out in the back end before I weld the spring buckets in the front and set the front. All right, guys, so while I'm thinking about all this stuff that's going on the back end of the Suburban here, I'm going to go over a few things with you. So I've been running on the sway bar right here, I've been running those factory links on that for ever since I lifted it. I've always just run the factory links. They make extended links, which would bring that sway bar back down more horizontal. It's angled up quite a bit right there. So I'm thinking now that I'm going to be running like a 2.5 inch lift, 2.5 to 3 inch lift on the rear versus like 1.5 inches, that I probably need to get extended sway bar links for that. Would probably be a good idea, make it function a little bit better. I've known people that have broken a lot of these links. I've never broken one, but I know people who have. I'm also considering, when I do that, I would like to, so with the Tahoverlanding swap, I'm losing my front sway bar unless I fab one up and put one on the front, but I will not have a front sway bar. I'll just have the back sway bar, which makes me think I want to keep the rear sway bar for sure, and I may figure out a way to put one on the front. But because I've got the tent and stuff on here and Sarah drives it, the kids are in it, I want this thing as safe as possible on road. So I want it to handle well on road. I've got a lot of weight in here, a lot of weight up top, center of gravity is increased, and I want it to be as safe as possible. And the sway bars make it safer on road. But I would like to put disconnect links on it so that I can disconnect the sway bars when I go off-road so I can articulate more. I've never had an issue with it in the back because the back has always flexed out as far as it's going to go with the sway bar connected. Now that probably, the sway bar not only affects how your axle goes, but it also affects how your body the body of the vehicle correlates to the axle. So I'm sure it makes a difference, and it makes a difference in a variety of ways. But I want to be able to disconnect it. So I want to get some link ends where I can disconnect it in the long run. But I'm also considering doing a heavy duty sway bar on the back to help make up the difference for not having one on the front. I don't know how much that will actually work. I'm not super familiar with heavy duty ones for these. So I know they make them, and I think they're usually more for like drag racing scenarios and things like that. I would guess that's more of what they're for. But I'm not 100% sure. I'm not that familiar with them. But I'm considering doing a heavy duty one back here, do the extended links, have a disconnect on it where I can disconnect one side, and that'll allow the rear end to flex. So I'm also kind of at the max height that I feel comfortable with this. My front radius arms are not far from maxing out on droop. The track bar here that locates the axle side to side it's got a good slant to it, but it's not too bad. I'm fine with that. I'm not really worried about that. I could make some adjustments there. The way that all works, that actually kicks the axle out this direction, and I measured it. It's about 3/8 of an inch further to the passenger side than to the driver's side. So the axle is offset a little bit. That's not a problem. If you want to learn more about that, go check out some of Tahoverlanding's videos. He goes into a lot better details and information than I'm giving you. It's not a problem because when this thing tucks, that's going to bring it back where it's at. Because the way this works, that axle is going to shift side to side to some degree because you have triangulation there. But the important part is where it tucks at, not where it's when it's all the way down, but when it's flexing and tucking up in there. Otherwise, you'll end up with worse tire rub issues, because if you center it at ride height, when you tuck it, it's going to kick over. And anyway, I don't know if that makes any sense. There's a lot of people that have given much better descriptions than what I'm giving, but that's not a problem. My brake lines, I think, are good. That is an issue. You got a brake line dropping down and then teeing off right over the pumpkin there. And some lift kits have extensions for them. I don't think I need it. I'm going to kind of keep an eye on it, make sure it's not going to be binding up or putting anything into a bind when the axle is drooping and that kind of thing. I think it's going to be okay though. If not, I'll get an extension so that it can go a little further. And I've still got to figure out shock. So I got to get some measurements, figure out what shock lengths I need, what brand I want to go with, since I pulled the ones off and put them on the Tahoe that were on here. And those were going to probably be a little short anyway. So I got to get new shocks. Don't know what shocks I'm going with yet. And also, since we blew up the G80, if you haven't been following us for a while and you come in on the Tahoverlanding swap, part of the reason I went ahead and started doing this whole revamp is we're having issues in the front end. Then our G80 locker, the factory locker, after 250,000 miles, we finally broke it. Took 250 miles and upgrading to a 6.0 and a 4L80, so a little extra horsepower and torque in there. And we finally broke the G80, so I got to pull that out. I would love to put in an Eaton E-locker or an Ox locker, a proper locker, but I'm probably going to go grab the G80 out of the camper or my parts truck out here and slap another G80 in there because it's free and it's worked for a long time. It's not what I would like to have, but I can upgrade later. So I need to get the rear end fixed, and then obviously I got to fit the tires and see how everything is going to line up. But that's all I'm going to do on the rear end, because that's all I can really do right now. I'm actually going to jump over here tonight. A while back, I built these rock sliders, and I threw some paint on them this week. Got some steel paint on these things, so they're looking pretty good for my fabrication skills. And I think I'm going to go ahead and get these welded on tonight. I've just they've been sitting here, and I just haven't got around to it, but I've got time. I think I'm just going to go ahead and get these welded on, and then we'll have the rock sliders on. So they're also pretty heavy, so that'll help when we're setting up our suspension to have a better idea of where the vehicle's going to sit at. Obviously, the tent's not on it. All my recovery gear and stuff is in the back. We don't have people in here, so it's going to sit down some more once it's fully loaded. But I'm going to go ahead and get the rock sliders on, do a little bit of welding, and get something accomplished. guys, I've got one on, and it's solid. It ain't going anywhere. I can jack the vehicle up by it. It's on there. It's on there good. I won't bore you with the footage of welding the other side on. It's really hard to film on that side of the vehicle anyway. Just a rock slider welded to the frame. I got probably a few spots to touch up on my welds, but overall, it should get the job done. I can jack up the vehicle with it without it moving that quarter or eighth of an inch to the body there. So it's got a little bit of movement, but that's just the movement of the frame and things. So I think I'm good on that for tonight. All right, guys, I'm gonna throw in, because I'm kind of doing random stuff. Oh, that light's bright. Kind of doing random stuff, but I actually put a cell phone signal booster on this thing a while back, and I just didn't have anywhere to put it into a video because it was kind of a short thing. So I'm gonna throw that in here at the in the middle of this video. I'm actually going to work on installing a cell phone signal booster, which I've had sitting around for a long time. I actually have an old one in here that had a window antenna on it. It's like 10, 15 years. It's about 10 years old, I think. 9 years old. It's worked okay, but it's old. This one's a lot better. So we're putting in a Weboost. This is our main unit here. This is the booster unit. And then we've got the big antenna like they're making now. And then, of course, we got our little biscuit internal antenna. And, of course, a DC power cord. So these things are super simple to install. You got an external antenna. That goes to your booster. And then from that, it goes to the internal antenna. Then you have power that goes to the booster. And what a cell phone signal booster does is not magic. It literally takes what signal it has and it boosts it. It's like a bigger antenna than the antenna in your phone. People like to say they're magic, you'll get service everywhere. No. What they're going to do is boost what signal's there. And they'll get a little bit further than a phone's going to reach because it's a bigger antenna. And a lot of times it's sticking up off your vehicle taller. So if you want high-speed internet out in the middle of nowhere, this isn't going to do it. You need Starlink for that. But if you just want to take some of the highs and the lows out of cell phone signals so you can make calls a little bit further, a lot of people use them on commercial trucks, especially in our area, running through the hills and stuff where you have patchy service. It'll help take that out. I know this because I've installed quite a few cell phone signal boosters. I haven't done as many in vehicles, but I have commercially installed cell phone signal boosters on residential settings, in like hospitals, commercial settings. I've done some big cell phone signal boosters. And what I always tell people, if there is no signal, you're probably still going to have no signal. You can't boost nothing. But if you have a little bit of signal, maybe you can send out a text or it's just like patchy. That's when the cell phone signal booster is really going to shine, and you'll be able to maybe make a call instead of a text, or send a text instead of nothing. So they do work, but they're not magic. They're still only going to take you so far. So if you want, like I said, high-speed internet somewhere, get your Starlink, get it where it can see the sky, and go that route. A cell phone signal booster is not necessary. It's not a magical wand that makes you be able to do things in places you normally can't. But they do work, and they do help. That's my professional opinion from someone that's installed some pretty big cell phone signal boosters. So we're going to put this Weboost one up. So I've got the antenna already assembled, and I also have this bracket that they make, which is a hinging bracket, which to me is very, very important. This antenna is roughly 4.5 feet tall, which I do want the maximum height because that'll help it work a little bit better. But as you can see, it hits the ceiling in my garage. That's how tall it is. So the type of places I drive, this antenna would get caught up on everything. And it does have a spring on it, so it does have flex. But I'd still end up probably ripping it off. So I got this hinging bracket right here that Weboost makes, and that will allow me to fold it down when I don't want it. So if I'm just driving down the interstate or driving around town, I don't need this big old antenna sticking up. I'll just fold it down. And then when I want it up, I'll fold it up when I want to use it. So that's going to be super handy. So the way I'm doing mine, now generally speaking with these things, you want to put the external antenna and the internal antenna kind of on opposite sides of the vehicle. Otherwise, you'll get what's called oscillation. The outside antenna will start picking up from the inside antenna, and you're just going in a circle. So generally, you want to put it like on the back and then you're gonna put your other one up front. I should probably do that, but I'm gonna try putting mine up front because I don't really have space in the back to do it the way I want it. So I'm gonna try putting mine in the front. If it doesn't work, I'll have to move it to the back. But we're gonna start by putting it up here. And since I got my light bar here, I'm actually gonna take this thing like this, and it's gonna mount right about like that. So I'm gonna mount it to my light bar bracket right here. I gotta drill a couple holes, bolt it up, tuck it down low. Then when it is folded down, it will be completely below the level of the roof rack, which allows me, if I want to carry canoes or anything like that, I don't have to move this. It's never in my way. I can fold it down completely out of my way, but then I can also stand it up and use it. So it'll be nice and out of the way. So it's gonna be super easy to install because I'm doing that. I'm just gonna run this antenna down through some of the door trim here, come in the door behind the molding right here, run it over, and I'm not sure where I'm gonna put the booster. I'll probably put it under a seat, or I don't know, I usually put the antennas like right around the center console if possible, the internal antenna, but I usually put the boosters like under a seat or up behind the glove, or like behind the glove compartment, or up under the dash, wherever you can get them that's convenient and you can tuck it out of the way where you're not going to be kicking it and messing up the cords and stuff. So I gotta drill some holes, route some wires, see if we can't get this thing installed. Okay, first thing we need to do, figure out where we want this here. We right about there. Figure out where I can put my holes at, and then try to get those marked. There and there. And down there. We get 3 bolts in, it looks like. Kind of hurts drilling holes in this nice bracket I built, but got to mount it up somehow. Probably change this hardware out later to some black hardware, but I don't have any right now, so we're going to go with what was provided. Unless I drop it. Okay, so that's mounted, so I can actually just pull this knob out and this thing will rotate up. I can't do it because the garage is here, so there's not room, but that is going to work quite nicely. Fits in there nice and snug. Just sits right down on the front of the roof rack. Oh yeah, that works. I was planning on putting this in the back originally, which I may have to move it back there, but I like things tucked in, low profile, and not obnoxious. So I guess you could say this entire vehicle is obnoxious. There's a massive light bar on the front of this thing. So, but this is the kind of thing, this is completely out of the way unless I need it. So I'm going to take this wire, we're just going to route it down through here, and then I'm just going to take this one in through the door because it's not a real big wire. You gotta be careful running wires through your doors and seals and stuff because they will make them leak. You gotta be kind of strategic on how you do it to help prevent them from leaking. I run it underneath it, and sometimes that still doesn't work quite right. So I'm gonna tuck it in here, and see if I can get it in here without causing any problems. If it ends up leaking, I'll have to route down and go through the firewall and put a grommet in and all that kind of stuff. But that can wait. So I'm just gonna tuck this in behind this, all the way down. So I got my old one out. This is my old one. This is just an older Weboost. It's actually probably nothing wrong with it. I could probably have just swapped the antennas and with a better antenna, but this one is more powerful. It's newer. It probably has some more range. This was like a display model we had, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this one in, but I'm gonna put it under the passenger seat here. So I routed my antenna cable through here. I route my power wire back up through there and plug it into one of my DC outlets. And then I'm gonna put this under the seat back here and we'll fire it up and see how it works. Not gonna really have an accurate measurement of it here, but I'll turn it on and make sure it's coming on. And then I'm gonna install this. I'm gonna put this in my center console and then just run my wire down under the seat. When you're trying to work on a project and you got a sheep getting fed, got to keep the lamb happy though. So I got my internal antenna in. Sorry, it's just terribly dark in here, so it's really impossible to see, but I got it in the center console. Wires down here. So this just has an outside antenna and an inside antenna, and then the power. So fire up and see if it turns on. This one doesn't even have any lights on it. A lot of the old ones had lights on them, but we'll see if it works. I actually don't have very good cell signal here at our house, so I should actually see it boost a little bit. Well, I've got the whole thing installed and it's all ready to turn on. Looks super clean, tucked in up here, antenna sitting here, and I will be able to stand it up. Unfortunately, I was gonna test it, but I can't test it because I robbed the battery out of here for our other Suburban because we needed a battery and this one had a brand new battery in it. So I don't have a battery in this vehicle right now. This thing's been sitting so long at this point that I took the battery out. I'm robbing parts off of it. I'll test this out a little later. We'll let you know how it works at some point in one of our later videos. I just wanted to go ahead and get it installed. That way it's ready to go once we do get this done. I got some other stuff we're going to install, but I just kind of wanted to throw that in tonight. Sorry about the lighting in here. I just don't have very good lights in my garage, and it's dark outside, so I can't do it outside. Otherwise, I'd have better lighting. But that's all I got for right now, but we'll come up with something else to do in this video as well. So guys, thanks for watching. I think we're going to wrap this video up here. We're going to keep working on the solid axle swap and all that entails. I'm going to get this other rock slider thrown on, but I won't bore you with that footage. So thanks for watching, and we'll see ya on the next adventure.